What is up, folks? Solar Strike here, and today we are here to talk about Quake II, a first-person shooter developed by id Software and published by Activision on December 9th, 1997. A sequel unrelated to id's earlier release Quake, released the previous year. It is set on an alien planet after a botched human retaliation over a previous attack on Earth from the Strogg, a war-driven alien species. Serving as id's first shooter with a narrative, there was another leap forward in the company's portfolio, with color lighting and skyboxes, native support for hardware accelerated rendering, and new modularity. While not as well received as its predecessor, it was still a great success for the team, selling over 1 million copies by 2002 and proving to be a bit of a tech demo for many platforms and technologies, becoming id's strong suit for many years to come. What happened that made Quake II so appealing to this demographic? Let's find out as we dig into this 1997 shooter history and its gameplay. The game's development began shortly after the completion of Quake in the summer of 1996. Due to developmental strife during that game's development, Romero had left the company with id alumni Tom Hall to form Ion Storm, leaving John Carmack to work on technological improvements on the Quake engine. Fortunately, development on the game would be much smoother than the original Quake, thanks to a streamlined development cycle, with the only major snag being the name of the game changed from various names such as Strogg and Lock and Load to Quake II, due to failed attempts to get those names going, disregarding the Lovecraftian style of the original for a new plot involving humans having revenge against an alien attack. Carmack would post regular plan updates throughout the game's development to show how things were going throughout 1997. Thanks to the massive success of the original game's OpenGL accelerated port of the game, support for 3D acceleration was made available right out of the box, though the traditional software renderer still existed. It again made use of the OpenGL library, and was now made more modular as a result of a new layout of files and organization for the models, entities, mechanics, and other things with this new version of the engine, allowing for even more flexibility within the engine proper for mod support and other creative things, including the rise of the machinima, which had begun in the original game, and was expanded on in this installment, with added support for fully custom 3D models in demo files for the game. Other improvements include new colored lighting throughout the spaces, as well as skyboxes. Over time, the game also added support for AMD's 3D Now instruction set, which improved performance on the then new K6-2 CPUs for the company, as well as new levels for deathmatch and bug fixes, due to the game being slightly rushed to make the December 1997 deadline. Unlike the first game, which was mostly ambient in terms of its soundscapes, this game made use of a much harder rock soundtrack, composed by Sonic Mayhem, more reminiscent of id's Doom. The soundtrack reflects the thematic shift from the gritty and uncanny mood of the original game to the more action-gripping setting of this game, now set on an alien planet known as Strogos, of which humanity came to avenge after a brutal invasion from that planet's race, the Strogg, but failed miserably after unexpectedly strong forces on that planet. Fortunately, you play as a Marine known as Bitterman, who missed his landing site due to a collision with another pod, allowing him to survive the counterattack and fight through Strogg forces to turn the tide of the intergalactic war in favor of humanity. It serves as id's first game with a proper narrative, told through cinematic cutscenes at the beginning of the game and after the completion of each area, broken into somewhat non-linear levels. Just like its predecessor, the game was first beta tested thanks to a demo known as Q2 Test released by Carmack, this time released in October 1997 with some changes from the final game. Ultimately, Quake II was released to store shelves on Tuesday, December 9th, 1997, foregoing a shareware release like the original. The game was eagerly anticipated by gamers and critics and received just as much praise as the original game for its reliable and excellent gameplay as well as its technological improvements, although it garnered some criticism for somewhat familiar multiplayer and abandoning the style of the original game. Despite this, the game was, and still is, popular, selling almost 250,000 copies in 1 month in the US, and over 1 million worldwide by the end of 2002. As a result, 2 mission packs, as well as a multiplayer-specific expansion, as well as 2 console ports on the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation, followed in the wake of the game's success. On December 22nd, 2001, the game and its engine's source code was released by id Software to aspiring developers who were willing to tinker with it. The game became very popular as a tech demo for various APIs to showcase their power, such as Java and .NET. Notably, the game even received a port to MS-DOS in 2015, a platform which id had abandoned between the original and Quake II. This all came to a head in 2019 with a special re-release of the game with Nvidia and an engineering team making use of ray tracing technology thanks to their RTX lineup of graphics cards, forked from an earlier ray trace source port of the game from the same team using the Vulkan API on both forks in collaboration with id Software. As for how this game holds up, I am going to be using the VK Quake II source port, which was forked by that same team to make the 2 source ports I just mentioned earlier. So, let's get quaking again.